Hello, everyone. Welcome to Minch Walks. I'm Minch, and my job on this channel is walking. Actually, I don't only walk, I also talk. But talking alone, that's kind of boring, right? So maybe it's more accurate to say, walking for me is just an excuse to talk. So, where I'm walking today, this is Tirana, capital of Albania. I came here about a month ago, first time. And honestly, before that, I'd never even heard of this city. Not once. Albania, the country, sure, I'd heard of. But mostly from the news, like in the 90s, CNN, BBC, Reuters, Europe's powder keg, Kosovo, ethnic cleansing, that kind of vocabulary. Or, that Hollywood movie thing where somebody hands over a few $1,000s and a guy just quietly disappears. And it's always some vague Eastern European country doing the disappearing. Could be Albania, could be Ukraine, could be Kazakhstan. Doesn't really matter to the plot. And personally, my only real reference point was guys working the kitchen at some pizza place or kebab shop in a European city. Big, tough-looking guys. So, how go you? Maybe you're thinking, how can someone be this uninformed? So I think I need to sort of come clean about who I am first. I'm Korean, born and raised. I've been lucky enough to live in a few different countries. And my work, it's the kind of work where you're supposed to pay attention to what's happening in the world, so I like to think I know a bit more than the average person. But still, living way over there, at the edge of East Asia in Korea, the chances to actually know where Albania even is, what people here eat, what they think about, it's pretty limited. News, right? It always kind of flattens complicated things into something simple. Sometimes too simple. I mean, back in the day, I've gotten into actual shouting matches with foreigners online about North Korea, F words and everything, more than once. But why did one people, one Korea, split into two and end up fighting? And why, 70 years later, are we still sort of stuck like this? What geopolitical forces don't want this order to change? Most media doesn't really dig into that, not deeply, because even if you spend the time and money to actually go report on it properly, the ratings just aren't there. So, North Korea's the bad guys. Kim Jong-un's the crazy one. South Korea's the good guys. America's the guardian of peace. Much simpler that way, right? And it gets the ratings too, obviously. So that's kind of how stereotypes get made. And I'll admit, that's exactly how I ended up with my own sort of preconceptions about a country like Albania. So then, why did I come to a place like this? Honestly, even now, thinking back on it, it's kind of funny. For me, Tirana wasn't a tourist destination. It was an escape destination. That's the honest word for it. And what was I escaping from? That part matters. This is sort of embarrassing to even say out loud. A third-floor attic room, over 40 degrees, no air conditioning, not even a fan. There's this village, about 45 minutes by train from Paris, where Louis XIV apparently built a castle, took walks, swam in the famous river Sane. Very picture postcard kind of place. I have artist friends there, living in this postcard house, raising kids, kind of a fairy tale life. And they invited me. I was living in Bangkok at the time, struggling to write the first chapter of a screenplay. They said come in June, it's past the cold season, not too hot yet, stay in the attic, write, get inspired, and so on. And look, they were doing me a favor. I'm genuinely grateful. They just didn't quite see a 40-plus degree heat wave in mid-June coming. Nobody did, I guess. Normally, apart from maybe 5 tropical nights a year, summer there is the kind of thing you can handle with a quick swim in the river, Seine, 10 minutes away on foot. That's what they told me, anyway. Of course, French summers haven't really looked like that for, 5 years now? But somehow the whole neighborhood, not just my friend's house, hadn't really adjusted to this new normal at all. No AC at home, obviously. Fans apparently weren't even a thing there. There's this one corner shop, a tabak, sells cigarettes, but also beer, coffee, lottery tickets, odds and ends. And even that place, no air conditioning. Around 3, 4 in the afternoon, everyone, my friend's family, the whole neighborhood, just heads to the sun. That's sort of where the social gathering happens. First few days, it was kind of fun, actually. But doing that every single day as my whole strategy for surviving the heat, I couldn't quite manage that. So, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks of sleepless, sweaty nights later, I couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to escape. You want to know how? I have 2 AI assistants. I've actually given them names. And I explained the whole situation to them. Cheap flights, cheap cost of living, a scene with digital nomads, creators, young entrepreneurs, startups, that kind of energy. And most important, non negotiable condition, a city where air conditioning is just normal every day. So both my AI assistants, Neva and Clara, both said Tirana, a city I had never, not once, heard of before that moment. Pretty simple requirements, right? So that's how I ended up here. And as of today, exactly 1 month. And so far, I have to say that I'm pretty satisfied. Air conditioning was my number one condition, right? So, good news. The Airbnb I'm staying in, the AC is fantastic. It does the job properly. And the cafes. Every single alley seems to have one. And honestly, they're all pretty generous with the AC and the Wi Fi as well, unlike Paris. Actually, no, there's a lot I could say on that topic, but it's kind of an annoying one, so I'll just save it for another time. It's the first episode of my new YouTube channel after all, so yeah. Next, cost of living. And look, right now is peak season, so kind of unavoidable. Apparently, a lot of people here make most of their yearly income during the summer and live off it the rest of the year. So the coastal cities, Durres, Saranda, along the Adriatic or the Ionian, those are obviously not cheap right now. But even Tirana, accommodation isn't exactly cheap either. Compared to Bangkok, where I was living, it's noticeably more expensive. But compared to a major European city like Paris or Rome, it's maybe half the price, roughly. Average about 45 to 50 euros a night. Budget options around 35. Coffee's about 80 cents to a euro. There's this local dish I really like, birek. It's like a Turkish-style pastry pie. In Serbia, Bosnia, and the Balkan countries around, they call it burek. In Turkey, it's birek, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Inside, it's meat or cheese or spinach, that kind of thing. My favorite is the meat one, with ayran, that salty yogurt drink on the side, and that's about 2 euros for lunch, sorted. Pizza, burgers, that kind of thing is common too. A light meal is around 7 euros, worst case 10. Dinner's usually somewhere between 15 and 20, depending on what you eat or drink, of course. Beer at a pub, 2 to 5 euros a glass. Anyway, the details of actual life here in Tirana, I'll get more into that next episode. Oh, actually, wait. I've been talking about prices this whole time, and I haven't said anything about how this city actually feels. So, there's this energy here, sort of a growing city energy, that's hard to describe unless you felt it yourself. In a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of China 20 years ago, or Korea back in the early 90s. That same sense of everything still being built, still finding its shape. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. I'll get into that more next time. Of course, there's no place in the world that's just perfectly satisfying, some kind of paradise. Cheap cost of living, weak infrastructure. Good safety, expensive prices. It's kind of always some trade off like that. Everyone wants something different, I guess. There's things you can compromise on, and things you can't. And weighing all of that together, you just pick the place that's sort of the closest approximation to your ideal. Assuming, of course, that you actually have a choice, that where I want to live is even an option on your table. That's kind of a big assumption, if you think about it. Anyway, I've been living in Tirana for about a month now, and honestly, my satisfaction with life here is pretty high. Originally, the plan was to stay maybe a week and then decide whether to stick around or move on somewhere else. And somehow that turned into a month. These days, the asset markets, such as stocks or cryptos, are honestly pretty rough. I'm guessing some of you watching this go through some difficult times too. I am not any different, honestly. And I've also gotten used to Bangkok prices, so sometimes even here things feel expensive to me. But whenever that happens, I just think back to that month in Paris. Thank God. Anyway, more than that, there's actually quite a few other things about this city that make my life here more satisfying. Okay, so that's sort of it for today's walk. I feel like I rambled a lot, honestly. But here's the actual thing I wanted to say. I've been living as a digital creator only for the past few years. Before that, for about 10 years, I made documentary films, the traditional way, sort of an analog way of doing things. And then, right around the peak of my career, I went through some messy stuff, the kind of mess that greed and vanity tend to create. And right after that, COVID hit. Next thing I knew, there was just debt piling up. Honestly, it's not a particularly special story. It's sort of what a lot of people my generation went through, people who hustled hard through their 20s and 30s. But somewhere in there, I realized I'd become not the person I actually knew myself to be, but the person society kind of expected me to become. So I decided to just drop the familiar life and try to build a lifestyle that's economically free, geographically free, doing the things I actually want to do. Freedom, honestly, isn't something I've fully gotten to yet, but I'd say my life is sort of in that process. And then AI showed up, and honestly, that made everything more complicated. I've been excited about the world that's coming, but also genuinely worried, because things are moving even faster now. My biggest worry is this: a world's coming soon where AI and robots fill in, replace a huge part of what our lives used to be. And if I'd already spent years trying not to be defined by what society expected of me, and now even my job, the actual work I do, can't prove who I am anymore, then what does? What actually makes a human human? That question just kept spiraling, and that's honestly why I made this other show, Nightbird FM. I built an avatar, DJ Lorne, and I've been speaking through him. But after about 10 episodes, I hit a limit. It's a radio from 10 years in the future format, so there's a barrier. You have to understand the whole world first. And because it's this polished script, maybe 90% of what's actually going on in my head never makes it in. So I started thinking, there's probably other people out there carrying this same kind of unease. Not that many people are really living the free, nomadic life, honestly, even if a lot of people call themselves that. But plenty are struggling toward it, or at least dreaming about it, myself included, like I just said. And that number's only going to grow in whatever this transition turns into. So sharing my actual thinking right now from somebody a few steps down that road felt meaningful on its own. Subscribers, views, doesn't matter. Maybe my story, or just the scenery I'm looking at, means something to somebody. So that's what this is. The 90% that never made the script. Let's just talk about it here. So this was the first episode. How did it land with you? Out of everything I rambled about, is there anything that kind of stuck? Something you want to sit with a bit more? Honestly, it's totally fine if you don't remember what I actually said. If you just watched because you were curious what the streets of Tirana look like, some nomad who came all the way from Korea walking around, or what people here are wearing, how they do their hair, that's more than enough, too. I'm kind of doing this for myself as well, you know? There's just too many thoughts floating around in my head, and if I don't write them down somehow, they just disappear. So listen however you want, whatever's comfortable. I think it's about time to say goodbye. My legs are getting a little tired, and honestly, I'm thirsty. I wanted to end with something sort of cool, but nothing's coming to mind. Huh, nothing. On my other show, the DJ ends every episode all dramatic with "Stay thirsty, stay human." But thinking about it, for whoever's actually watching this channel, I came up with something else. Stay sane in this crazy world, comrades. Let's just survive this crazy world. That's really it. No need to win anything, honestly. If you're a survivor, you're already a winner. All right. See you next time. 안녕.